Okay. So here's the Nikkei travel ban, Korean ban. We're going to speed run this, the presentation, right? The PowerPoint. I know you guys like the PowerPoint. This is my explanation of what happened here. I'm going to go over some rules. Some of these are specific to Nick. Some of these are in general, but it'll all get through. Number one, what happened? He got banned from entering Korea. So he was granted limited exemption to get his stuff and leave. Okay. Rule number one, you have no right to enter a country for any amount of time. You can be denied for any reason by an immigration officials as an extension of the sovereign power of that country, unless you are a citizen or permanent resident, not temporary, not have even a business visa or whatever else. Unless you are a permanent resident, that's a type of resident that is that's short of citizenship. It's everything but voting usually, right? As a permanent resident, it's a special status. You have to earn that, right? So unless you are a citizen or a permanent resident, you do not have a legal right to be in that country. And a lot of Americans feel very entitled. When we're going to talk about Johnny Somali, right? Johnny Somali feels entitled to be in these countries, to be in the countries he goes and causes problems in. A lot of the nuisance streamers, we talk about the nuisance streamers, right? Some of the kick streamers. Not all of them are nuisance streamers. Some of them are good guys and good people and good girls. That's all good. But some of the nuisance streamers feel the same way. They feel entitled to be in these countries. They're not. And if those countries decide they're not wanted, they could kick them out at any time. They are there, for example, in Japan, at the good graces of Japan. If Japan says, you know what, we don't want you streaming in our country, they can boot you out. They can boot them all out. They could boot them all out tomorrow if they wanted to. They're not doing it because they're nice, not because they can't do it. They could if they wanted to. Let's all be aware of that. How difficult is permanent residency? It's both difficult and not. If you are committed to staying in Korea for a significant amount of time, like let's say 5 years, you can do it. You can get PR, right? But you got to do there. Also, you really need to learn Korean. That's like something that in terms of the point system and also their unofficial things, you really got to learn Korean. It's not impossible though. It's very possible. Okay, so that's rule number one. You have no right to be there. So don't act entitled to being in a country. Sorry, you're just not entitled to it. Next, rule number two. If you enter a country as a tourist, either through a visa exemption or visa free through a tourist visa, right? Any type of tourism, you do not have the inherent right to work. The presumption is you are not allowed to work. Now, sometimes, for example, in certain circumstances, let's say you are a branch employee of Microsoft and you are going to a Microsoft conference or training in Korea, right? From Microsoft Korea. There's some limited exemptions for that and stuff like that, where you're working with a company, which is probably one of the reasons why they asked him, are you working with somebody? Because, for example, if you're an LG employee, an American LG employee, and you came over to Korea, and they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Or if you're working with a company there, that's fine, because you'd be covered by them. You'd be covered by their company. But of course, he wasn't there. He was just there as a tourist. But you're not supposed to be working. Now, can you get away with it? Sure. Also, where do you publish the information? So, for example, if you're a travel vlogger and then you're taking it all and you film 1 week, you go back home to America, and then you dump all of your footage and you release it. Well, they're probably not going to have a problem with that. But if you're in Korea actively making and producing content while you're there, that's going to raise more flags, right? It's going to raise more flags. Next, rule 3, but other people do it is not a legitimate excuse for anything, immigration or otherwise. Nobody has ever got away with anything because they said, but he's doing it. Imagine, I think speeding is the best example. You're speeding in the car, you get pulled over, and you tell the officer, but the other guy was going 120 and I was only going 100. Is he going to let you off? We all know the answer is no, right? We all know the answer is no. That's not a good example. Yeah, someone said Lance Armstrong. Yeah, everybody else is doping. I can dope too because everyone else dopes. No, that's not an excuse. You can't do that. Even if everybody else is doing it, that doesn't make it okay. And just because you got caught, it sucks. It sucks, but doesn't make it okay. Now, I think in this case, he was doing things differently, but that's my personal opinion. And no, that's sorry, not my opinion, my educated interpretation of the facts. I'm not a Korean lawyer, right? However, I have a lot of experience dealing with Korean immigration, both personally and through my profession, right? Of helping people and consulting with people on this. And I've had over 50 to 100 clients, probably at this point, no, I'm sorry, about 70 clients that have in various ways gone in and out of Korea, right? So I've got a lot of data on Korea. Rule 4, maxing out your tourist visa period and then immediately re-entering the country is frowned upon, even if it can be done legally. And a lot of people do this legally, and it's not illegal. It's not illegal. Hear me. It's not illegal. It puts extra scrutiny on your case. And I'm going to talk about the teacher hypothetical. That is one of the scenarios he might have been caught in. For those English teachers out there, you're going to know what I'm talking about, you dirty English teachers. This is one of the things that raises suspicion. So what this means is, for countries, for example, like Japan and Korea, you're allowed to go 3 months in that country without just no visa. You just come in for 3 months. Technically, you can turn around, go to another country for 1 day and come back. So for example, if you're in Korea for 3 months and you take a boat to Tsushima, which is Japan, right? And you just get off the boat, and then you get right back on the boat and you come back, technically you can do that. Or you take the shuttle, or you go to Busan and you take the boat to Fukuoka or Osaka, and you turn right back around, you do a shot with meme copium in Osaka, and you go right back over to Korea. You can technically do that. It's frowned upon, and they look very carefully at your file. They don't just like immediately let you in. They're like, oh, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I'm going to talk about why, because there's a specific problem, the teacher problem. Rule 5 is, if you bothered to get an E6 entertainment visa or a digital nomad visa, and I'll put a little asterisk on that one, it is unlikely to be a problem. Both of these visas are cheap and easy to obtain. There really isn't an excuse for not getting them, especially now that he's been told he really doesn't have an excuse for not doing one of the two. If he had one of the two, he probably wouldn't have a problem. They probably want him to get the E6, but I think the digital nomad visa might work as well, because he can argue that YouTube is an American company, so he's not deriving that income from inside of Korea. So there is an argument for that, but it does allow him to continue doing that type of work. So I think digital nomad would work for him. The visa would work for him. I'm not trying to give him too much personalized advice, but I think they're trying to push him into E6, which is fine. Whatever. You can try one or both, right? They're both cheap and easy. And if he needs a lawyer, I'm more than willing to introduce him to a Korean lawyer, a very good Korean immigration lawyer that will help him with that, right? Very good, for free. Rule 6 says, if your primary video audience is Korean and you are spending significant time, it looks like he spent 3 to 6 months. If you look at his videos, he has months of Korean content. He clearly was there for at least 3, if not 6 months in that country. At least, I mean, there's no way to get all that content out. It looks like he maxed out his tourist period. You need to get a Korean work visa. This is what, if you're in Korea, you're operating there, you're spending significant time, your primary audience is Korean, you're going to need a work visa. Here's a teacher presumption. So the teacher presumption is because there's a lot of dirty teachers out there. And I know a lot of you teachers are clean. You're good boys and girls. And, God bless you for teaching young Korean kids English. That's a hard job. I took that test and, for a short time, I actually did some part-time, trying to do a little bit of that. And it is just, number one, it's not for me. I love kids and teaching, I love teaching in general. But it's a hard job, and you're under the thumb of very strict rules. It's really interesting. But what happens is you've got these dirty teachers. So they are working, teaching English in Korea without an official visa. So they work and get paid under the table in Korea, because it is high paying if you want to, especially if you have private clients, private tutoring, etc. Right? You get somebody a private tutoring. What these teachers do is they just go to Japan or go somewhere for like a day or two and they come right back in, and they keep maxing out their tourist period. So they go for 3 months, they leave, they leave for a day or two on the weekend, and they come back and they get another 3 months. Because that's illegal and they need to apply as teachers, and they know this is a thing. Korean immigration knows this is a thing. Anytime they see you maxing it out, they scrutinize it because of the dirty teachers. And this is my free advice here that I normally don't let out outside of a consultation, but we're going to tell today. We're going to talk about dirty teachers. So they get away with that. And look, do people get away with that? Yes. Have people successfully gotten away with this? Yes. Right? They do it because it sometimes works, but eventually you get caught. When you do it your third or fourth or fifth time, they're going to eventually catch you, and they're going to be like, yeah, no, you get out of here. You're a fucking English teacher. Get out of here. Right. And English teachers are ultimately completely replaceable because they can obviously find somebody else. And nowadays they're very inclined to find folks from like the Philippines, for example, or other places that'll accept a lower wage. And to them, you're just a robot that reads off a book. Right. So, the sooner they can replace you with AI, they would. Right. Because it's just all interchangeable plugs. Your personality and teaching style and all that doesn't matter. You just teach the book and do it the way they want it. They do it the way they want to do it. Essentially, you're a robot. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, but no, I never officially taught ESL ever. I have the certificate because I always said if I ever, was unemployed on the street here, I could do it. I wouldn't have to go back to the US, but I really haven't done it full time. One of the things, the hypotheticals is he got caught in the teacher presumption, but I don't think it's that. It's pretty clear he's not a teacher, and you can look at his YouTube channel and figure out real quickly he's not a teacher. He probably got caught by a hater, and it probably was a Korean hater, right? So the Korean hater probably was somebody who was making videos of a similar sort in Korea, and they got mad that he was making more money than them. And it probably was a Korean, and he turned around and reported them immigration. To be honest, they're not going to take reports to immigration seriously unless you are also a Korean. So I don't think it was somebody outside. It could be a agency or something, but I think it was probably an individual that was probably pissed off at the money he's making and his success and how he's doing it. And they're probably like, this foreigner should not be making money. It's probably a Korean who looks at it. It's like, this foreigner is not even paying taxes here. He's making money, he's profiting, and he's not contributing, which, to be honest, there's a little bit of logic to that. He's not paying taxes. He's not paying into the Korean national healthcare, which you're required to buy, required to have if you're there for a longer period of time, which you should be, right? If he's there biking, imagine if he gets injured. Who's going to take care of him? The Korean healthcare system. He should be paying into that, right? And that's not unfair. That's not an unreasonable thing. By the way, Korean healthcare is amazing. I never regretted paying for it. I used Korean healthcare to the great extent, and it's super worth it and worth paying for. I never felt bad about paying the couple $100s a month I paid for Korean healthcare. No problem. It's totally worth it. I have no problem with that. I'm happy to have supported their healthcare system. It's amazing. Their system is amazing, and their level of healthcare is ridiculously good, right? He should be paying into that. He should be paying some taxes. I'm sorry. You're using you're profiting off the country. You're using the country. You're staying there for a long time. Pay some taxes. It's not unreasonable. You're making enough money. I see those super thanks. You're making some money. They're very visible, right? The reality, and this is a big reality, many countries are kicking out freelancers, like people that, and I know freelancers in the sense of people who work for themselves, or digital nomads, essentially. Digital nomads are getting booted because they do not have proper visas. They didn't go through proper channels. And we're kind of seeing parallels there in the US with people working illegally. This happens in many countries. It's happening in Bali. It happens in Thailand. It happens in many places. People who are working without work authorization. You need to get your shit correct, and you need to get it right. You need to go pay for a visa. Sorry. There's not really, just do it legally. Just because somebody else got away with it isn't an excuse for you not to do the work. If you're making the money, go pay the stuff and do the work. You're not running a serious business as a YouTuber if you're not willing to do that. It's not very hard. So go get that. It's a crime globally to work without a visa in a country. That's not something that's unique to Korea or Japan or Asia. It's pretty much everywhere. So just go do it, especially if you're staying there a long time. Get legal, go legal, you know? And I think that's it. Oh, yeah. Last but not least, the Somali effect. Okay. So how does this case relate to Johnny Somali? So is it directly because of Johnny Somali? No. He's not being targeted because of Johnny Somali. However, this is very relevant to the Somali case. Here's why. The ban of Nick K is relevant and the information because of the first words out of immigration's mouth to Nick K. What did they say? You have broken Korean law. If Johnny Somali streams and he does not have a proper visa to be streaming and making money, if he decides to stream, he is breaking Korean law. Same as the very intro to Nick K's video. Breaking Korean law. That's an additional charge. That's something else on his menu of violations in Korea. It just adds to it, the cabbage effect, right? So if he does do that, that's something that they can tack on, they can add, which at this point, once again, people know Johnny Somali. They know where he is. They know he's in the country. It's kind of like this guy, Nick K, insofar as now people know him. They know who he is. When I asked my Korean friends, have you heard of Nick K? They actually had. And that's a good sign that people know you. Same thing with Johnny Somali, people who know who Johnny Somali is. So now that he's at that point, you can't get away with streaming in the country anymore. You can do that when you're not known, but he's known. And, thanks to many channels that are putting out information on Johnny Somali, if he pops his head up, everybody's going to cover it. I covered it the other day. Other people are going to cover it. They're going to write articles about it, right? People are going to know when he sticks his head up. So that is how this relates to Johnny Somali. And hopefully there can be lessons learned here. So once again, I don't take anything personally to this guy. I mean, maybe if I was harsh, it's more tongue in cheek. It's not personal. I have nothing against Nick K. He seems to have a very successful channel, and I think he should just go and get a visa and just do this legally. I mean, I think he's created a big content farm out of being in Korea. He's clearly marketing to the Korean people, and he's doing a good job of it. And I think he just needs to continue. He got 300,000 views in this video about Korean baseball, right? 200,000 about this other one in Korea, about a French dude, right, in Korea. He needs to just look at this, 250,000 here. That's crazy. He needs to just market to Korea, get a proper visa, and just do it, and just stay there in Korea and do it legally, and just make that your thing, bro. Korea likes you, and you seem to be a really nice guy. So just do it legally, and I think you've got a good career ahead of you. I think you've got a solid niche. I think he could be very successful. He seems like a really nice, affable guy. He's fit, he's doing well for his life. And if you need help, I'll help you with a lawyer. I'll get you with the best immigration lawyer in Korea, right? I know 2 that I can recommend you to that'll get you your visa for sure. And if you need help, reach out to me. I'm willing to help you. But I hope that you take this as a learning lesson, and and you should be honest about the things that you actually were doing. I get it. I get why you want to be a little bit coy about it, but it's clear you're marketing in Korea, man. It's like obvious. We all know, right? Just like my primary audience is Americans. It's not surprising. My information isn't translated into Japanese or Korean or anything else. Although I have an audience abroad, I know the majority are Americans. But, is what it is.